So we've done some unit analysis or unit conversion problems involving one step, one conversion factor, or multiple steps, multiple conversion factors. Let's do some more examples, but let's do some examples that will be applicable to a lot of you, since I know many of you are in the nursing or medical field. Let's look at a typical conversion problem that you might experience in a hospital or in medicine. So let's say that you have a birth certificate of a baby, and according to that certificate, it weighs 1.8 kilograms and was 45 centimeters long. So our son is adopted from Korea, and those were his statistics from his birth certificate. We want to know what those measurements are in pounds and inches. Those are units that are used in hospitals here in the United States. We can do those calculations, we can do those conversions very easily using the factor label method that we've talked about. Let's attack the 45 centimeter one first, since we were able to do that in one step. So if you look at the conversion unit table from your text, it was in the previous video, we know that there are 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. So we can write that down. We can write that down as a unit, as a conversion factor. And the centimeters will be in the denominator, the inches will be in the numerator. And I write it that way. So I can easily see my centimeter units cancel, and I'm left with inches in the numerator, which is great. That's what I'm looking for, is inches. My final answer is going to have 2 significant figures because my starting given value has 2 significant figures. But remember, all conversion factors are exact numbers. They have infinite sig figs. And so 45 times 1 divide by 2.54 should give you a final answer of 18 when rounded into 2 sig figs. So that's converting centimeters to inches. What about this kilograms to pounds? Well, I know that for every 1 kilogram, there are 10 to the 3 grams. That was from the SI prefix table that was in the previous video. And I've written that here so I can see my kilogram units cancel. If I was to stop here, I'm left with a unit that's in grams. That would be incorrect. I want a unit that's in pounds. So I need to go from grams to pounds. And according to the table from previous video, there's 453.59 grams in 1 pound. That is written so that my gram units cancel. I'm left with pounds. And that's great because that's the final answer I'm looking for. I'm looking for an answer with the unit of pounds. So again, everything in the numerator multiplied, things that are in the denominator divided. My final answer will have 2 significant figures. So remembering that in proper rounding rules should give you an answer of 4.0. So my son was 4 pounds and 18 inches when he was born. A little bit of a preemie. Let's do another example. This is more still in the subject of medicine, but more in a pharmaceutical or lab, hospital lab situation. Let's say you have a medication from the pharmacy that is 10 grams per 15 mils. And I've got 2 questions here. I want to know what the concentration of that medicine is in milligrams per teaspoon. And I go ahead and give you the conversion factor for teaspoons and milliliters here. And I want to know how many teaspoons have to be administered to a patient to give 850 milligrams. So I've got 2 questions here. Let's do the first one first. First thing to realize in this problem is that you're given, which is 10 grams per 15 mils, that given is actually a number that can be thought of as a conversion factor, or I can write that 10 grams per 15 mils in the form of a fraction. So that per in the statement is actually like a division sign. Okay? I have 10 grams per 15 mils. So that is my given for this problem. So I'm going to write that down. And I want to determine that concentration from grams per mil to milligrams per teaspoon. Okay. So I've written down my given some space to work the problem. I've written down the unit that I'm looking for. And in this case, the unit that I'm looking for, I'm actually looking for 2 units. I'm looking for a unit in the numerator, which is mg, milligrams, and a unit in the denominator, which is teaspoons. So when doing problems like this, where you have a unit in the numerator and a unit in the denominator, what I recommend students do is you do this calculation all in one long string, but focus on 1 unit at a time. Focus on converting 1 unit at a time. In this case, I'm going to start converting my grams to milligrams first. I could have easily done milliliters first, but went ahead and did grams. So I know I can go from grams to milligrams using the SI prefixes. Specifically, in 1 milligram, there is 10 to the negative 3 grams. And I write that as a conversion factor so that my grams are in the denominator, so that gram unit cancels with that gram unit. And so now I am left with milligrams in the numerator as a unit. And hey, I am halfway there. That's the unit I'm looking for in my numerator for the answer. So if I was to stop the problem here, my numerator would be fine, but my denominator is not fine, right? I need milligrams per teaspoon. I have milligrams per milliliter. So I need to convert my milliliters to teaspoons. I can do that using that conversion factor that I gave you here, which is 1 teaspoon is 5 milliliters. So I write that conversion factor, that equivalency, as a fraction, and I write it like this, so my milliliter units cancel. So this milliliter unit cancels all the way with this milliliter unit. I'm left with teaspoons in the denominator. And hey, that's what I'm looking for. For a unit in the denominator for my answer is teaspoons. So now that my units match, now that the unit in my numerator and denominator matches the unit that I'm looking for in the numerator and denominator, I am done setting up my problem. And all I need to do is put it in my calculator. Now again, if you want to multiply everything in the numerator, write that down. Multiply everything in the denominator, write that down, and then do the division, that's fine. Or if you want to do it stepwise, where you would do 10.00, divide by 15, multiply by 1, divide by 10 to the negative 3, that's fine as well. Our final answer, both should give you the same correct final answer. Our final answer is going to be based on the number of sig figs in our given, which each is 4. So my final answer is going to have a total of 4 significant figures. And so if you put that in if you set it up right and put it in your calculator correctly, the number of milligrams per teaspoon that you should get is 3,333. So that is the concentration of this medicine in milligrams per teaspoon. So that is the first part of this problem. We're going to use this answer along with the given of 850 milligrams to solve the second problem, which is how many teaspoons of that medication should be administered to a patient to give 850 milligrams. So my given is 850 milligrams. I am looking for teaspoons. I know from the first part of the problem that I have 3,333 milligrams per teaspoon. And note again that I've written that as a conversion factor, and I've written it with the 3,333 in the denominator because I want my units to cancel properly. I'm left with teaspoons. And so my final answer to 2 sig figs, because this number has a total of 2 sig figs, that 0 is not significant. My final answer to 2 sig figs and to rounding is 0.26. So approximately a fourth of a teaspoon. So those are some examples of how unit analysis is applicable in the medical field. In the next video, there are several more example problems. I'd like you to try those on your own. And in the next video, we will go over the setup and the answers for them.